Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pushed back on a recent deal announced by US President Donald Trump for the disarmament of Hamas. In a video posted to social media, Netanyahu said the Israeli army would not pull back from its current positions in the Gaza Strip until the full disarmament of the militant group, comments that appear to contradict the terms of an October ceasefire deal. Well, for more on this, we can cross live to Noga Tarnopolsky, who's in Jerusalem. Noga, tell us what exactly Netanyahu said and what this could mean going forward.
Good to see you, Karis. Prime Minister Netanyahu, first of all, hasn't shown himself in public since last week, since Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So this video was released only in Hebrew yesterday. As you can see, it's a bit of a casual setting, and he's trying to tell Israelis that Israel will not withdraw from Gaza, full stop. In fact, that's the text of a statement that came out from the Prime Minister's office in response to the announcement of the U.S. Renewed push to advance the ceasefire deal in Gaza. What he said, actually, in his words, is a bit of a tightrope. He said Israel will not withdraw 1 centimeter from Gaza until Hamas has completely disarmed. In fact, he said until the entire enclave is weapons free. Now, that does contradict the text of the agreement, the October agreement, as you mentioned, that Netanyahu signed on behalf of Israel with the United States, that said that Hamas would disarm and Israel would withdraw in simultaneous parallel steps. In other words, that Israel couldn't say, we're not withdrawing until they're done, but that it would happen together simultaneously. The fact is, there's a technicality here that may be a conflict both for the United States and for Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu did sign this document, if I'm not mistaken, while he was at the White House or in some kind of electronic meeting with Trump. However, he never brought it to a cabinet vote, and he never brought it to a parliament vote. As a result, it's not clear whether Israel, in terms of Israeli law, is actually committed to this agreement. The prime minister at the time simply didn't dare bring it to his cabinet because he didn't think the deal would pass. But now that the United States is insisting on moving ahead, Netanyahu, as we see, is really trying to walk a very fine line, trying to tell Israelis, we won't leave, but trying to wink at the Americans that he's not breaking an international agreement. I think we're going to see more pressure on him from the Americans over the next few days, and then we'll have to see where he comes down on this dilemma.
Well, speaking of pressure, Noga, Netanyahu's facing pressure from the right flank of his coalition to reject this deal, but also he's facing a tough re-election bid in a couple of months' time.
That's right. Prime Minister Netanyahu finds himself cornered right now, to be honest. Much of his cabinet is really extremist and represents a minority, even in some cases an extreme minority of Israeli views. But he can't afford to lose the support of these coalition members who are such radical extremists. So as a result, he has agreed to very, very extreme steps that his own voters don't support and that the majority of Israelis don't support. In other words, he's taking a political risk regarding the elections so as to hold on to power right now. And this has led to significant speculation and even warnings that the prime minister may be trying to manipulate in one way or another the elections, or may even have in mind the possibility of declaring some kind of state of emergency, which would postpone the elections. Today, we got the latest of these warnings from opposition leader Gadi Eisenkot. He's the guy who's leading Netanyahu currently in the polls, and he's now the third opposition party leader. I mention this because they do get intel briefings to warn Israelis explicitly that there are efforts on the part of the prime minister to somehow muddle with the upcoming elections.
All right, Noga Tarnopolsky, thank you very much for that update from Jerusalem.